Manchester City in South East London this afternoon have drawn 2-2 against Crystal Palace. Twice Palace led, twice City came back.
Sporting 4, Manchester City 1.
7 games lost. These 7 painful reminders that even the best teams have their kryptonite. And it's not just the losses, it's how Manchester City has looked. Disjointed, vulnerable and ordinary.
De Bruyne plays it forward. It is a night to forget, and it's 3 defeats in a row.
To make matters worse, they couldn't even beat Feyenoord aside from the Dutch league, in a game they should have dominated with their eyes closed. Well, the problem is, down to them missing a certain player. In this video, we will be talking about how we can solve this issue and get a player to replayer who they are missing. A lot of people are looking at Manchester City's form right now and going, oh, it's just injuries to key players. Sure, Kyle Walker is out and Jack Grealish is sidelined, but honestly, that's not the full story. This run of form isn't just about missing a few big names, it's deeper than that. And then you've got the Premier League fans chiming in like, relax, City always have a bad spell around this time of year. It's their December thing. All right, fair. But here's the problem. This isn't just bad, this is worse. 7 games lost in a row, and even a draw to Feyenoord? Nah, this isn't just a little blip. This is a full-on meltdown. City looks off, disjointed, vulnerable. It's not just that they're losing, it's how they're losing. You watch them play, and it's like there's no control, no composure, no cityness about them. And you can feel the frustration boiling over, not just from the fans, but from Pep himself. So what's going on? You see, this mess isn't just because they're missing Walker or KDB or Grealish. The real issue, it's the number 6 role, Rodri's role. That's where everything is falling apart. And trust me, his absence isn't just noticeable, it's catastrophic. You see, Pep Guardiola absolutely cannot live without the lone number 6. It's the engine of his entire philosophy, the player who makes everything tick. And right now, for Manchester City, that player is Rodri. But to understand how important he is, you need to see how he has used the lone 6 in all his former clubs. Barcelona was where he got to use this system. Back in the tiki-taka glory days, Pep had Sergio Busquets as his number 6. And wow, did he perfect that role. Busquets wasn't flashy, but he was the guy who connected everything, winning the ball back, controlling the tempo, and finding the perfect pass in tight spaces. It was all Busquets. He was the quiet genius sitting at the base of that iconic midfield trio with Xavi and Iniesta. Without him, Messi doesn't get the ball in those dangerous areas as easily. Pep Barcelona relied on a number 6 who could break up counter-attacks before they started, control possession, and always position himself to offer an outlet under pressure. Busquets were the glue that held it all together. Sound familiar? Then at Bayern Munich, he made use of Philipp Lahm, the legendary fullback. Pep saw Lahm's intelligence and technical ability and reinvented him as a defensive midfielder. And guess what? It worked. Lahm became the pivot for a Bayern side that dominated possession and suffocated opponents. The formula was the same. He needed a no 6 who could read the game better than anyone else. Someone who wasn't just defensive, but could build attacks from deep. Also, when he got to Manchester City, Rodri was not his first midfielder to be used in that role. He first experimented with Yaya Toure, but Yaya wasn't your typical number 6 in the Pep system. He wasn't there to sit deep, dictate play, and protect the backline. Yaya was more of a hybrid, a marauding box-to-box midfielder with incredible passing range and an eye for goal. City needed more control in that deeper role. Someone who could anchor the midfield while the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva worked their magic further forward. Then Fernandinho came into the picture. Now, this was a player built for the Pep system. Smart, disciplined, and a defensive rock, Fernandinho became the bedrock of Guardiola's City. Over time, he transitioned into the perfect lone number 6, someone who could break up attacks, recycle possession, and cover ground like no one else. Fernandinho wasn't just a player, he was a mentor. He read the game so well that Pep trusted him to anchor the midfield while City's fullbacks inverted and their wingers pushed high. But even Fernandinho wasn't timeless. By the time Pep brought in Rodri in 2019, Fernandinho was already in his mid-30s. and the plan was clear. Rodri would learn from the master before taking over the mantle. When Rodri arrived at City, he wasn't thrown into the deep end right away. Pep gave him time to develop, to understand the intricacies of the system, and to adapt to the physical demands of the Premier League. And who better to guide him than Fernandinho? Fernandinho served as both a mentor and a safety net, allowing Rodri to grow into the role without the pressure of having to perform perfectly from day one. Slowly but surely, Rodri began to make the role his own. By the time Fernandinho stepped back, Rodri had evolved into the ultimate Pep-style number 6, calm under pressure, tactically astute, and vital to how City played. So is the reason why Manchester City playing badly down to Rodri? Well, yes, without Rodri, City doesn't just look off, they look like a completely different team. It's like they've misplaced the user manual for how to play football. Defensively, they're all over the place. Opponents are creating big chances left and right. I'm not talking about half chances here. These are the kind of opportunities where strikers are licking their lips. Why? Because Rodri isn't there to stop the chaos before it starts. You see, City's setup relies on a ridiculously high defensive line. The idea is to push the opponent into their half, keep them trapped, and control every aspect of the game. Sounds great, right? But here's the catch. When City loses the ball, that high line becomes a massive liability. It's like they're daring the other team to counter-attack. Normally, Rodri is the guy who shuts all that down before it even becomes a problem. But now, without him, City left the back door wide open and told everyone to come in. Counter-attacks are running wild, and City's midfield doesn't know how to handle it. And here's the real kicker. City is conceding the highest XG per shot in the league. Translation: when teams shoot against them, it's from prime positions. That's not just bad, it's catastrophic for a team that usually smothers opponents and gives them zero room to breathe. Rodri's absence also exposes another issue: City's midfield. Let's be real, Pep loves his tidy technical players, guys who can pass their way out of a phone booth. But the flip side, these players aren't exactly known for their aggression or physicality. They're great when everything's going smoothly, but when City loses the ball, they struggle to recover. And without Rodri's calm presence and insane ability to read the game, it's been a disaster. Oh, and let's talk fouls for a second. Tactical fouls are practically a Guardiola trademark, those sneaky little trips and nudges that stop counter-attacks before they start. Guess who's been City's tactical foul king for the last 5 years? Yep, Rodri. But since he's been out, City's fouling less. And while that might sound like a good thing, it's not. It just means they're not even trying to disrupt counter-attacks the way they used to. Now, to be fair, it's not just Rodri the City's missing. Kevin De Bruyne, Kyle Walker, and a few others. And yeah, they've had moments where they've missed big chances or made silly defensive mistakes. But here's the thing. All those little issues become way bigger without Rodri. He's the glue, the anchor, the guy who makes everything tick. Without him, City's system doesn't work the same way. The defense looks shaky, the midfield feels exposed, and the attack doesn't have the same rhythm. It's like the entire team is slightly off balance. You might be wondering, why is Rodri's absence such a massive issue for Pep this time around? I mean, it's not like he's never had to deal with injuries to key players before, right? Well, here's the thing. This is different. Back in Pep's Barcelona days, losing his main number 6 wouldn't cause a meltdown. Why? Because he had options, luxury options. Think about it. If Sergio Busquets ever needed a rest or, heaven forbid, got injured, Pep could turn to Yaya Touré, who could slot into that role like he was born to play it. And honestly, he kind of was. At Bayern Munich, the story was the same. Pep had a conveyor belt of midfield talent. Xabi Alonso was his general, but if Alonso wasn't available, he could call on Philipp Lahm. Yes, Lahm, who transitioned from world-class fullback to elite midfielder under Pep. And let's not forget Thiago Alcantara, who could step in and do a job in the pivot if needed. Even in Pep's early days at Manchester City, this wasn't a crisis. He inherited Fernandinho, who was like the Swiss Army knife of defensive midfielders. Fernandinho could play the 6 role blindfolded, and he even acted as a mentor to Rodri when the Spaniard arrived. Pep had the luxury of slowly integrating Rodri into the system because he always had Fernandinho as a safety net. But now it's a completely different story. There's no backup. There's no plan B. When Rodri's out, the drop-off is massive. You see, Kovacic is a brilliant player, but he's a progressive passer, not a defensive shield. İlkay Gündoğan could have been an option. He has the intelligence and calmness to sit in that role, but does not have the legs anymore. Kevin De Bruyne? His best work is done higher up the pitch. Bernardo Silva? Too lightweight for the lone six role. He's better at buzzing around in advanced areas, connecting the midfield to the attack. Calvin Phillips? Let's be real, Pep doesn't seem to trust him for this job. And Matheus Nunes? He's still adjusting to life at City, and asking him to step into Rodri's shoes is like asking a rookie to perform brain surgery. He is also more of a box-to-box. The bottom line, no one in this squad can replicate what Rodri does, and that's why this is hitting Pep harder than ever. But with all this, he needs to quickly address, and the best time to do this would be in the January transfer window. Here are three players who can play that role so well: Joshua Kimmich, Bruno Guimaraes, and Hugo Larsson. If Pep wants to go big, Joshua Kimmich is the name. He's a Pep Guardiola dream player, versatile, intelligent, and technically flawless. Remember, Pep worked with him at Bayern Munich, turning him into a jack-of-all-trades who could play as a fullback, a midfielder, or even a centre-back if needed. Kimmich's ability to dictate play is world-class. Like Rodri, he has an incredible passing range, whether it's short, controlled passes to keep possession, or long, diagonal balls to open up defences. He's also got that same calmness under pressure. You know, when three players are charging at Rodri and he just coolly turns away. Kimmich can do that too. But here's where Kimmich differs slightly. He's more aggressive and proactive in his defensive duties. While Rodri's game is about positioning and reading the play, Kimmich doesn't shy away from stepping up to break up attacks higher up the pitch. In City's high line, that could be a massive advantage. Would he fit into Pep's system? Absolutely. He already understands the demands of playing in a Guardiola midfield, and he has the leadership qualities City might need right now. The only catch? Bayern Munich would put up a fight to keep him, and he won't come cheap. Then we have Bruno Guimaraes. If you've watched him at Newcastle, you know this guy's the real deal. He's like a Swiss Army knife in midfield. He can defend, he can attack, and he can control the tempo of a game. Bruno's passing range is excellent, and he's got that physicality and work rate that Pep loves in his players. Defensively, he's not as positionally disciplined as Rodri, but he makes up for it with his energy and ball-winning ability. He's like a hybrid between Fernandinho and Rodri, someone who can break up play and drive the ball forward when needed. What makes Bruno an intriguing option is his ability to carry the ball under pressure. Rodri is more about passing his way out of tight spaces, but Bruno can shrug off challenges and make driving runs up the field. That could give City's midfield a different dynamic, especially in transition. The downside, he's not quite as polished as Rodri in controlling a game over 90 minutes. But with time, under Pep's guidance, he could grow into that role. Plus, he already knows the Premier League, so the adaptation period would be shorter. And then there is Hugo Larsson. He is young, but he's already making waves in Frankfurt as a deep-lying midfielder with massive potential. At just 20 years old, he's got the physicality, composure, and intelligence to play at the highest level. Larsson's game is all about control. He's got that Rodri-esque ability to dictate the pace of the game with his passing and positioning. What stands out about him is his maturity on the ball. He rarely looks rushed, even when under pressure. Defensively, he's not as experienced as Rodri, obviously, but he's shown flashes of being able to read the game and intercept passes effectively. With Pep's coaching, he could develop into a long-term solution for City's number 6 role. The big upside here, Larsson would likely be a much cheaper option compared to Kimmich or Bruno, and signing him now could give City a future star. The risk? He's unproven at the Premier League level, and expecting him to step into Rodri's role immediately might be asking too much. But who do you think Manchester City should sign? Well, let me know in the comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and watch our last video on how Højlund can be Amorim Victor Gyökeres. Thank you.